with me now is Ms. Hutchinson and Ms. Braithwaite from the Grenada Chamber of Commerce. So good morning, how are you doing?
Good morning, Mark. Good morning to all the listeners.
Yes.
Good morning.
All right. So tell us, what are the Chamber's views on the budget?
Well, the Chamber, as you know, is comprised of many different groupings. We do try to have a common response on some things, but with regard to the budget, we have different viewpoints. So we would have to express the different viewpoints of all the members. Some members feel that the 1.2 billion budget is a confidence builder, while others feel that the shortfall in revenue to try and achieve that budget is a deterrent and does not make the budget a realistic one. So those are the two viewpoints coming out of the Chamber members.
Okay. Any specific details, things that members particularly liked or didn't like with the budget?
For the, there were some issues that we had raised and had asked to be considered for the budget, and I think for the private sector, quite a few of those were realized, especially with regards to VAT, the continuation of the rebate, the continuation of the concessions on construction, and most importantly, that they heard the private sector with regards to how VAT is applied to donor-funded projects for materials purchased outside of Grenada as opposed to locally.
I think we could give a little bit explanation there, is that materials that are used on donor projects, if bought in Grenada, you have to pay VAT on it. But if the contractor, for example, is to bring in, import it, they would not pay any VAT. So that was causing a big headache for our hardware retailers and so on, because they were unable to benefit, and then were having a problem in terms of competition with outside.
Yeah, obviously the products became that much more expensive.
Exactly.
So it was easy. And then the donor projects, of course, typically tend to be quite large and could actually generate quite a lot of local revenue.
Correct. So that situation will, once they put through the paperwork, because of course the paperwork would have to be done with any of these things, then our retailers should be in a better position. And the other thing was the removal of the excise tax on the alcohol for the manufacturers.
On inputs to alcohol.
Right, the inputs, the importing of alcohol for inputs.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so these are two recommendations made by the Chamber that were realized in the budget.
Yeah. Yes, I think the other thing was that in terms of taxes, there were no tax increases. One of the good things that we saw was with regards to the agriculture, in the agricultural sector, the growth and the work that has been done there with regards to the cocoa and the nutmeg industry. And also, I think the work that has been done with regards to youth empowerment and the jobs that have been realized through that.
Okay. Were there any areas that, I think, recommendations that were made that didn't make it into the budget?
Yes, there were some in terms of like corporate taxes. There were some suggestions made with regard to taxation, and that wasn't, we didn't see that in the budget. But I guess in these things it's a give and take.
It's a compromise,
you can't expect to get everything, but what we did get, we felt happy about.
Okay. Now, there was a comment from Ian Dabrio that the budget doesn't go far enough as far as tourism. It doesn't address the issues of high energy costs for hotels. Any comments on that?
Well, that is a major issue. In actual fact, next week, Tuesday, we are working with GrenLec. We're having a symposium on the whole issue of electricity and electricity costs and all the various issues that attached to that. So we expect that to be quite an interesting afternoon. But it is a big issue. In fact, one of the hoteliers jokingly but seriously saying that he'd have to give Grenlec some equity in his business in order to pay the electricity costs, because the electricity costs are horrifying right now. And especially as we know that this month there are increases in electricity costs for everybody. That is a big issue that we in Grenada have to look at to see how we can address that.
Right.
I think the other is that in terms of budget allocations, there was more heavier weighting on the non-productive sectors as opposed to our productive, and tourism is our main sector, and I don't think it was reflected in the budget, in the budget how valuable an input tourism is to the economy. I know that the GHTA, the latter part of last year, had submitted a proposal to the government for a marketing strategy where they had offered to pay a certain amount, contribute a certain amount, and asked for that from the government. That did not happen. And I think if we are saying that tourism is our main sector, we really have to be showing that and letting it be reflected in how we move forward in the monies that are allocated. We know for last year, this year they got an extra 2 million, but last year I don't think they got what they were supposed to receive from the previous budget. So, you know, it does send out the question, what are we really saying and what importance are we giving to tourism, especially as it offsets on how so many different other sectors.
Yeah, but I know you touched on that a little. Some of your members are saying that you know, the high budget is a confidence booster, but you know, you're saying there's issues with tourism not receiving a full allocation last year, and that's where that deficit comes in. You know, what are they saying about the reality of the budget? How realistic?
You know, it's to see. We have to see how these things are going to be implemented, and as Hazelann was saying, how are you balancing? You have the non-productive sectors like health and education, which are important. You have to put some input because, you know, this feeds in to the productive sectors. But tourism, we have to look at the short, medium and long term, and we have to see where the monies are coming from and how we can direct them so that we can get as much revenue as we can, because we are in a bind, we know that.
Yeah.
I think some of the other concerns from our members is that we are at the end of the first quarter, and if the budget presented has a shortfall, then the question is, where is that money going to arise from, as that was not provided. Also, when we look at the projects, the major projects committee that they are working on to look at the bottlenecks, that is a good move. But then when we look at the number of projects that are supposed to be coming through for 2012 or 2013, the reality of them bringing activity to the economy is a big question. We like the fact that the budget and the minister spoke a lot to implementation and action, because that is what is definitely needed in order to go forward and to make some changes.
This is where I think we talk about the transformative sectors. We talk about the even within the OECS context, because we have the governor, Sir Dwight Brenner, who also spoke about modernization of the public sector, the need to change our mindset. And if we are going to do it by 2020, there are a lot of hard decisions that have to be made, because we have to change a lot of the things that affect how we work, our attitudes to work, our levels of productivity, everything. So we need to really start seeing that level of implementation now. And it will have to start at the government level. It will have to start there. They will have to lead.
Okay. I think in regards to the comments that we received from our members, the cut in minister salaries, for some it was seen as a positive move and a lead in the way especially with the state of industrial negotiations and how that has been. For others, in terms of waste management, the private sector has been cutting down on their costs, looking very stringently at their operations since the beginning of the recession. And so the question is that it's at this late stage that these actions are being taken when it should have been at the forefront.
Right. So I mean, now that you've heard the budget and it's in place, are there any new plans from the chamber, any decisions made, or is there a meeting planned to discuss?
Well, we had a meeting yesterday. We have not been able to look at there's a very large document that's about this size. What we have is this little document. So we do need to look at the larger document properly, and we're trying to get the members who are really qualified to look at those numbers so that we can, address it and analyze it in more detail. We would like to have, even see a debate, real debate on the budget, not just dealing with the politics. I think there are a lot of us out, in terms of the members and so on, we would like to see a real analytical type of debate instead of the focus on the politics, because this, I think it detracts from the way forward. Yes, we know that it's an election year and everything else, but what is happening in Grenada is all of our business, and I think we need to really look at it and see how all the stakeholders we can work together to get us out of this particular, the morass that we are in. So I think this is the absolute way forward. We understand that the politicians have their agenda that they have to satisfy, they have their stakeholders and so on, but we need to really take a very pragmatic approach at how are we running the country, how are we moving forward, how are we going to satisfy that whole transformation in 2020, because that's only 8 years from now. And you're talking about changing a lot of attitudes. How are we going to do that? We have to start from now to see any kind of results.
So we do have plans in the next coming weeks. There is going to be a symposium-like looking at the outlook of Grenada based on the budget, the transformation agenda, and we have a company coming in who will arrange a debate, as it were, with experienced persons who have an economic background, accounting background, someone hopefully from the ministry who had an input into the budget, who will go through and analyze the budget with members. It will be open to members of the chamber to look at the budget, its prospects, what it means for Grenada, and this will also be a tool that will be used for investors outside to see what has been discussed and what we see as the plans forward. So that will be towards the end of March. Okay.
Did you say that they're going to be doing a debate as well? And who is the debate between?
The debate will be between economists here in Grenada. So we'll have a panel.
Okay.
Yes. It's really to analyze the budget.
Yeah.
And it will be set up by this group that's
by the group and the chamber.
Coming in, with local economists. Okay. And that's at the end of March.
That'll be at the end of March. And I think it will give people an opportunity to sit down and they can present their questions as well in a better environment. I think, as the President has mentioned, the feedback is that the debates around the budget is too political, when people really want to know, from an economic point of view, how is this going to put food on my table? How is this going to keep my business alive? And this is not what they are hearing. So this is what the Chamber is going to be addressing at that symposium.
Okay.
Look, I think what we are getting from our members is that, people want to move forward. They will be prepared to make the necessary steps, but we need to have the level of, commitment and partnership and, leadership moving forward so that we can go somewhere.
Right. Yeah. I'm tired of the backward and
yes,
forward
yes,
of it all.
yes, the same old, same old. I think all, both parties need to really listen to what people are saying, and we can get, I feel positive that we can get somewhere, but we really need to do the right things to do that.
Okay. All right. So I suppose we have you back sometime after the symposium and get a better feel for the Chamber's outlook in terms of budget and plans and so on. Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much for coming in.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you here, and we look forward to hearing from you again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right?